The creature thrashed against the titanium restraints, foam bubbling at the corners of its mouth, eyes gleaming like twin suns behind its bone-plated snout. 4-inch fangs jutted from its lips even at rest, and it was very much not at rest. Dr. Ernev, lead vet of the Xantari Coalition's Interstellar Fauna Division, stood frozen just inside the observation chamber, his 3 fingers clutching the data slate like it could shield him. His pupils pulsed a nervous blue. It's still agitated," he stammered. This is aggressive prey behavior. No, this is predator behavior. This isn't acceptable containment protocol, I warned them. I warned them not to move it after Toggen sedation wore off. From the other side of the thick plexiglass barrier, the creature classified as Kratok F type, subspecies 7C bellowed, the sound vibrating the walls. Its tail, ridged with chitinous barbs, slammed into the metal floor again and again. Ernev's assistant, a young trainee named Luro, kept his distance. "We should call the containment team back," Luro said, "or evacuate this sector." Ernev shook his head quickly. No, we can't risk it moving through the lower sections. The Terran is supposed to be here already." "Where is he?" "He was assigned this case." Luro checked his wristband. "Says he's already on site." Ernev turned sharply. "What? Why didn't you tell me that?" "Where is he?" Before Luro could respond, the main door to the observation chamber slid open with a pneumatic hiss, and a man strolled in carrying an overstuffed duffel bag. He looked like he'd stepped out of a hiking trail rather than a government lab. Worn boots, canvas jacket, dust on his jeans. And a band-aid dangling from one knuckle. "Sorry," the man said, stopping to glance through the plexiglass. "Traffic on deck 7. Somebody backed a loading drone into a pressure seal." Ernev blinked at him. You're the Terran," Isaac Ellery, the human said, dropping his bag with a thud. "Veterinary specialist, Coalition contract, Class B license. You called about the Kratok with the infected molars." Ernev stared. "That thing has molars. It will if I get in there before it chews itself to death," Isaac replied, already unzipping the bag and pulling out a pair of elbow-length gloves and a small scanner. "This the one that got transferred from Delta 4. It dismembered 3 handlers," Ernev said. "And bit its own tail off." Isaac whistled low. "That'd explain the mood." "You can't go in there." Ernev took a step forward. "It's hostile. It's actively hostile. We've been trying to sedate it for 2 cycles." Isaac looked through the glass again. The Kratok F was now pacing, claws scraping sparks from the floor, tail twitching like a cat's. "Yeah, that's a mean one," Isaac said. "But it's not fighting, it's hurting. Look at the way it's favoring its left side. Something in the back jaw, probably an abscess." "You cannot go in there without full tranquilization. Sedation screws up their perception," Isaac interrupted. "They panic harder if they can't see straight, and Kratok Ftikes have a crazy sense of smell. If it's already in pain, it'll associate the sedative scent with more trauma." Ernev's mouth opened and closed. "You can't be serious." But Isaac was already pulling on the gloves. "I've worked with worse. Once treated a lactating Goric that thought I was a rival male. That one broke my clavicle." Ernev turned slightly green at the description. Isaac tapped the panel and waited for the inner chamber door to buzz. Luro leaned toward his superior. "He's going to die," Ernev whispered back. "I know." Inside the containment chamber, the Kratok F turned to face the opening door. Its chest expanded with a deep inhale. Its pupils narrowed. It lowered its massive head and snarled. Isaac stepped in, calm and deliberate. He kept his hands visible, low by his sides. His voice was even. "Hey, big guy, heard you've been having a rough time." The Kratok F hissed. Foam dripped from its jowls. It tensed. Isaac slowed his pace. "Smells like infection in here. That's not good. You've been chewing at it, huh?" "Makes it worse." The creature lunged 2 steps forward. Isaac didn't flinch. He crouched slowly, reaching into his jacket pocket and pulled out something wrapped in cloth. He unwrapped it, a chunk of cured meat, dark and pungent. The Kratok F paused. Its nostrils flared. Isaac tossed the meat gently across the floor. It landed with a wet slap. The creature stared at it, then looked at Isaac again. "Yeah," Isaac said. "Go ahead, that one's for you." It crept forward, sniffed, then snapped the meat into its mouth. Isaac stayed crouched, not moving yet. "Good," he said. "Now let's see if we can take a look at what's hurting you. I won't poke, just look." The Kratok F didn't growl. It didn't move either. Isaac reached slowly into his satchel and pulled out the compact scanner. He slid it across the floor toward the creature. A soft, whirring sound began. The Kratok F sniffed it. Isaac took a slow step forward. "See," he said. "Not so bad." Another step. "Just gonna look at your face." The Kratok F stiffened, then dropped to its belly. Its sides heaved. A long, low whimper escaped its throat. Isaac stepped in close now. He knelt, one hand outstretched. Then he did the impossible. He placed his gloved hand gently on the creature's armored snout and began to rub. The Kratok F's growl turned into a confused, deep gurgle. Its massive body twitched. Isaac kept rubbing. "Yeah. That's the spot." The creature relaxed more. Its tail stopped lashing. Its eyes blinked slowly. Behind the glass, Ernev looked like he was going to faint. Luro whispered, "Is he?" Rubbing its belly, Isaac reached down and ran his hand along the Kratok F's side, finding the softer underside. He rubbed slowly, firmly. The creature groaned, not threateningly, almost. "Content, you poor idiot," Isaac said softly. "You've been hurting for days." He found the swollen part of the jaw just under the hinge. Heat radiated from it. Isaac pressed the scanner against the spot. The screen lit up. "Abscess, all right. Probably needs draining and antibiotics." He looked up at the camera. "Get me a med kit and a portable drain unit," he said. "And someone tell your boss it's not feral, it's just in pain." Ernev stumbled out of the room. 40 minutes later, the Kratok F was resting peacefully, the swelling reduced and a small bandage affixed to its jaw. Isaac stood outside, removing his gloves. "You're insane," Ernev said, watching from a safe distance. "No," Isaac replied, stretching his back. "I just listen." "To what?" "The growls, to the body language, the breathing. The way it didn't actually try to bite me." Ernev shook his head. "We studied these things for years. None of us ever thought to." "Rub its belly." "Well," Isaac said, slinging the duffel over his shoulder, "maybe it just needed someone dumb enough to try." He turned to leave, then paused. "You've got another Kratok in stasis, right?" Ernev blinked. "Yes. Better check its jaw. These things live in packs. If one's infected, others usually follow." Then Isaac walked off down the corridor, whistling a quiet tune. Behind the glass, the Kratok F gave a soft, sleepy snore. The Kratok F was still asleep when Isaac returned the next morning. Its side rose and fell in slow, even motions, a faint wheeze escaping every few breaths. The bandage on its jaw was still in place. The overhead lights had been dimmed overnight, and the containment chamber's temperature was higher than standard, probably a precaution to keep it from going into metabolic stress. Isaac pulled a folding stool from his duffel and set it up just outside the observation window. He sat and tapped a few commands into his tablet. The scanner data from the night before had uploaded to Coalition systems. He scrolled through it, chewing thoughtfully on a protein bar. "You're back already?" Luro stepped cautiously into the chamber, a tray of nutrient paste in both hands. His gait was uneven, like he was trying not to disturb a sleeping deity. Isaac didn't look up. "Didn't have time to finish the report last night. Wanted to see if she was still stable." Luro set the tray on a nearby cart. "I didn't realize you'd named her." "I didn't. But she's got a female pelvic ridge. You can tell if you look close." He tapped the edge of the screen. "See that curvature?" Luro leaned in, squinting. "I thought they were all cloned." "Cloned doesn't mean sexless," Isaac said. "They still recreate the original genetic template. And the Coalition's been cloning from wild-caught females ever since that breeding disaster on Chiron 12. Luro's eyes widened. "You mean the one that, yup, ate its own handler, twice." Isaac stood, stretched his arms behind his back, and walked to the wall-mounted cabinet near the door. He pulled out a fresh set of gloves and a small metal case. Luro took a half step back. "You're not going in again, are you?" Isaac opened the case, revealing a row of metal-tipped swabs and a narrow injector. I need a culture from the abscess site. If the oral flora's resistant to standard meds, we'll need a tailored compound. But it's still awake. She didn't bite me yesterday. She won't start today. You really believe that? Isaac looked at him. I believe she wants the pain gone more than she wants me gone. The inner door opened with a low chime. The Kratok twitched but didn't rise. Isaac stepped inside, moving quietly. The air smelled faintly of ammonia and old blood. He crouched a few meters from her head, watching. Her eye opened, the iris contracting slightly. "Morning, girl," he said softly. "I'm back." She didn't growl, just blinked once. He edged closer, staying low. Her breath tickled his forearm, warm and damp. "Gonna take a little sample from your jaw," he said. "Won't hurt." "Just a swab." He reached slowly toward the swollen area. She flinched, but didn't pull away. The moment his gloved fingers brushed the edge of the wound, her jaw tensed. "Easy," he murmured. "I know, almost done." He inserted the swab, twisted it gently, then pulled it free. A smear of thick, greenish fluid coated the tip. "Got it," he said. She exhaled, a low rumble vibrating the floor. Isaac stood and backed away. She didn't move. Outside, Luro was frozen mid-bite with a sandwich halfway to his mouth. Isaac stepped through the door, sealed it behind him, and dropped the swab into a sample container. "Get this to the lab. I want a full profile on the bacterial load." Luro nodded, then hesitated. "You're really not scared of her?" "I'm not scared of pain," Isaac said. "I'm scared of missing something that could have fixed it." Hours later, the lab report came through. Isaac reviewed it in the medical wing, seated at a narrow desk between two humming centrifuges. The culture had revealed a mixed colony of anaerobic bacteria, several of which had developed resistance to both Tier 1 and Tier 2 antibiotics. That explained the slow healing and persistent inflammation. He pulled up the compound formulary, cross-referenced it against the known biochemistry of Kratok tissue, and jotted down a list of ingredients on a scrap of shipping paper. No one had restocked the requisition pads. "You're going to synthesize it yourself?" asked the technician beside him, a small, translucent being with a cluster of eye stalks and a faintly citrus scent. "Don't trust the pre-mixed cocktails," Isaac said. "Too many fillers." "She's already got enzyme suppression from the infection." The technician blinked 3 eyes at once. "You're using Terran methodology. It works." 2 hours later, Isaac stepped back into the containment antechamber holding a vial of amber fluid and a curved injector. He'd adjusted the dosage to compensate for the Kratok's elevated liver filtration rate. 1 dose directly into the abscess site. Luro stood near the console, watching the vitals. "Her body temp's dropping," he said. "Down 2 degrees since this morning." "She's septic," Isaac said. "We're just ahead of the curve." He entered the chamber again, this time moving faster. The Kratok didn't stir until he was at her side. Her pupils were unfocused, breathing shallow. Isaac knelt, found the spot along her jaw, and pressed the injector to the inflamed tissue. The hiss was soft. She twitched once, then went still. He waited, hand hovering above her skin. A minute passed. Then another. Her breathing deepened. The wheeze faded. "Good girl," Isaac said. He stood and walked out without turning back. Later that cycle, as the artificial lights dimmed to simulate evening, Ernev stood at the door of the ward, arms crossed tight. "You synthesized an unapproved compound without authorization," he said. "It was either that or let her crash," Isaac replied. "And your emergency protocols take 6 hours to clear. She's a Class 7 predator, not a domestic mammal. She's a patient." Ernev's throat plates flushed a dark violet. "If this fails, it won't." "You can't guarantee that." Isaac turned to him. "Neither can you." Ernev didn't respond. He stepped back from the door and disappeared down the corridor. By the next morning, the Kratok was sitting upright, propped against the support wall. She no longer bled from the gums. Her eye followed Isaac's movements as he entered, but she didn't bare her teeth. He tossed her another wrapped protein strip. She caught it midair. "Better." She swallowed it whole. Isaac grinned. I'll take that as a yes. From the hall outside, Luro watched through the glass, shaking his head. I don't get it, he said to the empty corridor. You rub its belly, talk to it like a lost dog, then cure a superbug infection with kitchen chemistry. Isaac turned, hearing him through the intercom. That's not kitchen chemistry, that's just knowing what penicillin does when you tweak the pH. Luro pointed to the sleeping Kratok. What even is that? It tried to kill 4 people last week. Isaac picked up his tablet. That's a sick, intelligent animal that's never had a reason to trust anyone. He paused, glancing back. Until now. The Kratok exhaled, loud but slow, and closed its eyes. The Kratok had learned the sound of Isaac's boots. By the 3rd day, she was lifting her head before he entered, her eyes tracking the rhythm of his approach like she was measuring the weight of his steps. Ernev still refused to stand closer than 5 meters from the containment chamber, but Isaac had stopped noticing the way the other staff hovered. He brought his own stool now, one with a dented foot and faded initials carved into the seat, and set it beside the reinforced glass. She's metabolizing the compound faster than I expected, Isaac said without looking up. The fever's down, but her lymph nodes are still swollen. I'll need one more booster and a rehydration drip. Luro was standing with his arms folded, trying not to look impressed. She let you touch her again, didn't have to. She curled around the drip stand and fell asleep. You ever seen a Kratok do that? No, neither have I. That's why I'm not wasting time. He stood and grabbed the cooler pack from his duffel. Inside was a sealed ampoule, its contents a translucent blue. Isaac held it up to the light briefly before tucking it into the pocket of his vest. Then he slid on a fresh pair of gloves and headed toward the inner door. She's more alert today, Luro said. Vitals are up, pupils reactive. Just be careful. Isaac didn't respond. The door hissed open and closed behind him. Inside, the air was warmer, tinged with the earthy scent of shedding scale. The Kratok had shifted during the night, her upper limbs curled under her head like a resting dog. She blinked slowly when Isaac approached, but didn't lift her snout. Still sore, huh? He said. She exhaled through her nostrils, a short puff that stirred his pant leg. I brought the last dose, he said, kneeling beside her. Then you're done with the poking. The Kratok tilted her head, exposing the side of her neck. The gesture was small but deliberate. You're making this too easy. He pressed the injector against the skin just beneath the jawline and released the dose. There was a faint hiss and the Kratok's eye twitched, but she didn't pull away. He held the device in place another few seconds before withdrawing it and checking the seal on the site. Done, he said. No more needles. He sat back on his heels and looked at her. The swelling had gone down. Her breathing was steady, deeper now, and her posture no longer held the constant coil of tension. Where her sides had once trembled with pain, now there was only the slow, rhythmic movement of recovery. You know, he said, pulling a small towel from his pack and wiping his hands, you're not what most people think you are. The Kratok blinked, then yawned. Her tongue flicked once before she closed her mouth again. A low, slow gurgle rumbled in her throat, the same sound she'd made after the first belly rub. Isaac stood and walked to the other side of the chamber, where a data panel flickered with green bars. He tapped through several screens until he reached the most recent neural scans. Your pain responses are tapering off, he said. Sleep cycles are regular, I'm calling it remission. The door opened behind him with a soft chime. Ernev stepped in wearing a sterile cape and carrying a tablet. I've reviewed the data, Ernev said. It's conclusive. Sounds like you're surprised. I am, Ernev admitted. The Coalition's been trying to stabilize Kratok behavior for 20 years, and you fixed one with fermented protein strips and tactile stimulation. No one tried treating them like patients, Isaac replied. You can't study behavior if you're only looking for danger. Ernev walked slowly to the edge of the barrier, far enough to see the Kratok but not close enough to be seen by her. She hasn't displayed any aggression since the 2nd day, he said. Not even when we adjusted the light levels. That's unheard of, Isaac nodded. She was reacting to pain, not provocation. Once the infection started resolving, the rest followed. Ernev squinted at the monitor, and now she's docile. Isaac shook his head. Not docile, she's just not in distress. There's a difference. Ernev looked at him for a long moment. You're not going to keep her here, are you? No, she doesn't need containment anymore. That's against Coalition wildlife protocols. Then change the protocols. Ernev blinked. You're serious. She's healthy. She's not a risk. You've got her vitals. You've got the scans. Keeping her sedated in a cube isn't medicine. Ernev hesitated. What are you proposing? Isaac turned back toward the Kratok, who now had one eye half closed and her tail stretched lazily against the far wall. There's a sanctuary on Kestrin 9, he said. It's isolated, prey-rich. No population centers nearby. I've worked with the director before. They've got experience with apex species. You think she'll adapt? She's already adapting, Isaac said. You just need to let her. Ernev tapped his tablet once, then again. The approval process could take cycles. Then we start it now. Later that evening, Isaac sat alone in the chamber, the lights dimmed to twilight. The Kratok had settled with her back to the wall, her breathing low and even. He sat cross-legged a few meters away, his tablet resting on his knee. You know, he said, most people would have written you off, dangerous, too wild, too unpredictable. The Kratok didn't move. But you just needed someone to listen. He leaned back, resting against the wall, and exhaled slowly. I get it, he said. I've had days like that too. A low hum vibrated through the floor as the facility's systems shifted to night mode. Outside the glass, Luro stood watching, arms folded, expression unreadable. You're really sending her away? He asked through the comm panel. She doesn't belong in a cell. Luro stared at the Kratok for a long time. I thought humans were supposed to be the dangerous ones, he said eventually. Isaac smiled, tired and quiet. Only when we stop caring. 2 days later, the transport arrived. It took 6 handlers, a reinforced hover sled, and a sealed containment pod, but she was loaded without incident. She didn't thrash. She didn't growl. She watched Isaac the entire time, her pupils wide and calm. As the pod sealed shut, Isaac placed one gloved hand against the glass. Inside, the Kratok leaned forward, pressing her snout lightly against the same spot. Then the transport doors closed, and she was gone. Isaac stood in the loading bay long after the engines faded. Behind him, Ernev approached, his gait slower than usual. I forwarded your report to the Coalition Ethics Bureau, he said. They're reviewing your recommendations. Isaac didn't turn. Good, you know this isn't standard procedure. It shouldn't be, Ernev paused. You changed something. Isaac finally looked at him. I hope so. Then he picked up his duffel and walked down the corridor, the sound of his boots echoing behind him. Far above, the transport vessel curved into the black, carrying one very large, very misunderstood creature toward a new home. And for the first time in her life, she wasn't afraid.